Apologies to everyone that was watching a few minutes ago, or like half an hour ago. I was told in no uncertain terms to turn my video off. So, but I did manage to get a little bit of footage from inside the cooperage, which I'm going to play you right now, and let you guys have a peekaboo of that. Really interesting stuff, coopering, and the work that these guys do, and what the basic consumption for cooperage and coopering is here in Scotland, because of the fact that Scotch whiskey is predominantly aged in barrels, casks, that have been used previously, largely for bourbon from the US, but also sherry casks and port casks from Spain and Portugal. You end up with, just like a massive amount. Hey, Tage, sorry about before. Sorry for disappearing there. They weren't up for the live stream inside, but they did let me video part of the experience. You want to see it? Tage, you want to see what it looks like inside? You want to see the coopers at work? Let me show you. Let me cue it up. Okay. And hey, Di, sorry about that. I had to like disappear for a second. They you know how it is when suddenly a bunch of people are like, turn off your camera. We're watching a movie together. So this is a video that I just shot from upstairs inside of the facility here that I'm standing outside of now. And what you can see here are a bunch of the apprentices. Hey, Mark. And Mila, good to see you. Hi. Well, you guys are looking at floor space of the ancestral kind of heart and home of these coopers. And what you see them doing is repairing old casks that have come in damaged. Usually because one of the staves, that's one of the wooden pieces there that go into the cask, has cracked. And when one of those cracks, they got to pull it out and replace it. So these guys are doing that, and they do a 4-year-long apprenticeship. 4 years they crank away, and eventually, then, they're apprenticed, and they get paid per cask that they repair. They can't choose which casks they want to work on. They can't choose to do easy casks. They end up having to take the cask which is next in line for them, no matter what it is, and then at the end of the day, however much they get done is how much they get done. Jenny, good to see you back. And Thorsten, no? Good to see you. Hello. So I'm in Scotland. I'm actually in Scotland with my brother right now. We are doing a bit of a Highlands trip. My brother works in the alcohol industry, so he's arranged for visits to a bunch of distilleries. Hey, Anna Maria, good to see you. Hello, welcome. And while we're getting these kind of VIP visits in a few different distilleries, I'm also making sure to take footage. Unfortunately, the distilleries so far, we were at Glenfarclas this morning, which is one of the longest family-owned distilleries. 6 generations of the Grants have owned that, and they are simply not for sale, regardless of Diageo and Pernod Ricard and other big alcohol companies trying to buy them. Fascinating visit, and I'm going to be putting together a video from it. The service was just not good enough to live stream, and I fear, as Ross and Nikki had warned me, that the Highlands may be not great bandwidth. We've got some right now where we are, but I think we're fortunate. That's why I'm not moving around too far from this space. Hey, Sweetling Chong, good to see you. Thanks for joining. And Jenny, I love the purple hearts. So I'm going to probably stick to putting together videos from the distilleries I go to, unless it's really good quality, which I just fear the bandwidth, like I said. And then I'm gonna focus on live streaming inside of cities or towns that have better service. So Aberlour, Elgin, Inverness for sure. And then by Friday, I'm going to be over in Edinburgh. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, before eventually heading back to the US. Hey, Jaya Chandran, good to see you. Welcome back. Hi. Hello to India. So coopering, it's an essential thing. And a lot, as we learned at the Glenfarclas visit earlier on today, a lot of these casks that you see here are actually originating from Kentucky. A lot of them are old bourbon casks from Kentucky, and one of the rules for Kentucky bourbon, or that's what bourbon officially demarcated, official authentic Kentucky bourbon, is that they're using American white oak, and the issue is that you can only use the barrel for bourbon one time, just one time only. That's all you get. And then after that, you have to get rid of it. Well, as it turns out, you're in luck if you are Jack Daniels or Jim Beam or something like that, because Scotland is going to buy your old casks, because those old casks, already one time treated, if you would, with bourbon, are perfectly ready to give color and flavor back into a Scotch whiskey. So they're also plentiful, those casks that come out of North America, because they can only be used once. That's it, a one-time usage. Unlike a sherry cask or a port cask, which might be used more often, and well, they're more expensive. Also, there's another thing, which is that port and sherry is consumed less and less frequently compared to what it was decades ago, whereas bourbon is still on the rise. So there's a lot of newly produced old bourbon casks, which keeps the price point pretty stable, whereas there's a always reducing number of sherry and port casks because of the demand for those beverages, and that means that the price on those casks is rising. So it's really, really interesting to see this place, and I'd say you go to one distillery, you go to two distilleries, go to three distilleries, go to 5 distilleries, as we are going to do together, and by the end of it, you're kind of like, it's like, cathedrals in Spain. I've seen 10 cathedrals now. I don't know if I need to go on a trip just to see another cathedral. But this place here, this cooperage, this Speyside cooperage, it's great and it's amazing. And they're kind of the unsung heroes, really, of the whiskey production, because you never really think about the guy that put together the barrel. You think about, the distiller, you think about the blender, right? Hey, Colleen, exactly. It's like recycling. Good to see you. And you think about the people that are actually mixing and blending and aging or selling you, the liquor store owners. But you don't really think, in order for you to get that color and that flavor, really the wood that the whiskey is aging in for at least 3 years and 1 day, that's the legal requirement, has to be 3 years and a day before you can call it Scotch whiskey. It's in that wood during that time. And the wood is taking what essentially is a clear spirit to start with and giving it color and the nuance of flavor as the wood interacts with the alcohol and breathes as well, intensifying it. And for those of you who are whiskey drinkers, if someone would go so far as to tell me, do you know what it is called? The amount of whiskey which is lost every year from a barrel. So you take a barrel, you fill it up with whiskey, and you start to store it. And then 1, 5, 10 years later, when they go to look in that barrel, a portion of the barrel is gone inside. The liquid has been reduced because it is evaporated through this slightly porous breathing, cooling and warming of the wood. Now there's a word for it in the industry and here in Scotland. They call this a specific thing. What is that portion that disappears, that evaporates? What do they call it? If anyone can let me know, extra points. Tage asks, how far back does the making of this? How far back does the making of this go back? Well, this cooperage has only been here for around 30 years. Johan who's just chimed in. Easy, the angel part. The angel share, in fact, is what specifically they'd call it. But yes, Johan, you're right. And Johan is French, which is actually really interesting because this cooperage is actually owned by a French multinational. So this cooperage is paired up with another one also in Kentucky, and then another one, I believe, in, I want to say Ireland, Republic of Ireland. And they're all owned by a French multinational because, of course, in France, in Germany, these traditions of course, making casks, right? Johan writes, La pâte de Ancestral. I can't actually speak French, so very tricky. Now, Johan, I have a question for you because you nailed the first one. Follow-up for bonus points. Do you know what they call, if it's the angel's share, which is the part of the whiskey which evaporates from the barrels, do you know what they call the droplets of water that some people will choose to add to their whiskey? Right, when you have a Scotch whiskey and you're gonna open it up, right, some people will add a drop or 2 drops inside of it. Shannon, welcome back. Sorry for disappearing before. Do you know, it's also something to do with angels. It's not the angel's share, but those drops of water, also in Scotland, they have a name for it, if anyone knows. And I'll give it a couple seconds and I'm going to tell you guys if no one gives it a good guess. But it's connected to water, little droplets from angels. Give it a guess. We just saw some guys driving around on a forklift over there. We'll take one last peek over here at these casks. I'm not supposed to cross over this space over here. Yes, Tibby nailed it. Awesome. I don't know if that was a guess or if you just knew, but indeed that is exactly what it's called. They are the angel's tears, and according to local legend, they're angel's tears because you make angels cry by adding water to a perfect Scotch whiskey. Right? Angel's tears. Well, Tibby, excellent guess. So yeah, adding water to your Scotch will make an angel cry. Hence, those droplets of water are the angel's tears. So, thank you for that. Pronounced similar to oranges. Orange. Yes. Hey, Ross, good to see you. Shouting out to you from up here in Speyside. The actual name of the city is tough. It's really hard for me. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it right. It is Craigellachie. Does that sound right? Craigellachie. I'm in Craigellachie right now here in Scotland. So, yes. Well, look, I'm sorry that I've been quiet again for a bit. I started to speak briefly about that. I had to take a break because I had I made some really bad life choices, and I hurt someone that I care about a lot, and maybe we'll talk more about that another time. But it just meant that it was time to not go on live streams for a beat, and luckily my brother and I already had this. Hey Jill, great to see you. Great to see you. We're gonna be in Scotland for the next week, so we're gonna we'll see each other a bunch. Now that I've got my EE and my Vodafone data SIM cards, you know how cheap data is here? 30 gigabytes for £10. 10 quid, 10 pounds, $15. Or maybe it's $18 nowadays. I don't know. It's not good. The exchange rate's not good. But gosh, data is so cheap. Unfortunately, in a lot of the distilleries that we're visiting, there aren't towers there, and hence, as we travel around Scotland, we're going to lean towards visiting cities, and then I'm going to end up showing you videos later on of, you know, visits to distilleries. Sort of like, just to give you a sense, but I haven't doctored this or done anything with it yet, so it's still quite raw. But here's an idea of something. This is over at Glenfarclas. There's a tour guide slash box pusher who just went through the screen there. And this is speaking about spring water and how important the water is. Guys, this is the reason why we have such a concentration of whiskey distilleries here in Speyside. Sure, you've got distilleries in different parts of Scotland, you know. Islay whiskies are very famous, of course. But Speyside is where the vast majority of are coming from. And it's the water. It's the great water. It's the same reason why pizza and bagels in New York are so special. It's the water, you know. And this is my brother here that you're looking at on the left-hand side with the sunglasses on his head, and a lovely, lovely gentleman who toured us around earlier on, who showed us the Glenfarclas distillery, a gentleman by the name Ian McWilliam, who was a terrific host and allowed us to, let me turn this off, come on, there we go, good. Allowed us to taste some really spectacular whiskeys that we weren't even going to be able to, like, you can't even get. There's the 185-year anniversary of Glenfarclas and the 6 generations of the family owning, you know, this distillery. They made a completely sold out. If you don't have a bottle allocated to you, you can't get a bottle anymore. And they still spared a dram on myself and my brother Matthias, which was when I told the cooperage guys here that I tried it. They were like, "What? How did you manage to try that? How did you even get a glass of that? That's impossible. No one here can ever get a glass of that." And it was because of the generosity of Glenfarclas and Ian. And I will be putting together a full video of the different stops on that tour for you guys, and we can visit that together. And Maria, thank you very much for your compassion there. I don't deserve any sympathy. I really dug my own hole on that. So please don't feel sorry for me, and instead, like, you know, join me in feeling sorry for my absolutely stupid actions. And well, we'll talk more about it, sure. Okay, Michelle, thanks for chiming in. Colleen, can't wait to see Inverness. Great. Inverness is going to be a place that we have good data service. So we're going to see that. We're going to see Dalmore. We're going to head up to, we'll head down to Dalwhinnie as well. Glenmorangie is what I was going to say, north of Dalmore. Probably swing by over there as well. And there'll be a fair number of, I will schedule city live streams, and then there's going to be a fair number of pop-ups from when I do have and when I don't have good service. It's really just hit or miss. You don't even know if it's gonna work or it's not gonna work. So yeah, I thought about getting was gonna get an older bottle from Glenfarclas before, but like I was born in 1978, and that bottle was from the family casks of Glenfarclas from 1978. It was close to, like, I think it was like 2,000 pounds, like 2,000 pounds of money, like GBP, like British pound sterling. It's a lot of money for 750 milliliters of the liquid. It's crazy, but well, that's what the going rate is. So, and I'll tell you, you know, a single malt's a special thing. It doesn't have to be a 40-year-old single malt. 10 to 12. I think my palate range is, like, I love around a 15. It's when it's kind of 12 to 15-year-old single malt. You're going to do very well, I think, without having to spend hundreds of pounds, which is a very special treat. So, very lucky today to try two. First, the 185 year anniversary from Glenfarclas, but they also gave us drams of their 25-year-old, which is also, yeah, extremely generous, and hence why I don't mind speaking up Glenfarclas and telling what a great distillery they are. So, okay. Well, listen, if you've been to Scotland before, Shannon and others, and there are special things that you'd like me to revisit and see, like the Monty Python castle. Which one is the Monty Python castle? Where is the Monty Python castle? Which one is it? A lot of the castles are owned by Historic Scotland, or the Historic National Trust, or both, or one or the other. And a lot of them are closed right now. So for instance, across the street from Glenfiddich, you have the Belvinny Castle, but it's closed right now. Edinburgh Castle's open. Stirling Castle's open. I think that Black Ness Castle is open. So there will be some castles as we go as well. I've not actually been inside Stirling Castle, so I think that's one that we should do together. So Shannon, I'm going to Google for sure and find out, if you don't know off the top of your head, where which one's the Monty Python castle. Right. Yes. You know what? Ross writes whiskey without an E. Remember, Chris? And it turns out, you know who puts an E in whiskey? It's only 2 countries. I didn't realize. And Ireland. And besides that, the vast majority of whiskey producing countries, not Scotch whiskey, but whiskey nonetheless, in Japan, right? Dai, check me if I'm wrong on this, if you're out there still, you don't put an E in whiskey in Japan. So in other places where whiskey may be produced, no E, just like in Scotland. But if it's North America or Ireland, they put the E in there. I imagine that the US, because of the massive Irish diaspora and influx of immigrants, probably followed suit, and that's what people knew as whiskey, was Irish whiskey. And in fact, the oldest whiskey distillery, it's not a Scotch whiskey distillery, and it's Irish actually, it's the old Bushmills whiskey distillery in Ireland. So that is the oldest one, although whiskey has been around for a lot longer than that. It's been around for over thousands of years. It's just that, honestly, if we think about it, the Irish and the Scots, they refined it. They brought it to that next level, really kind of in the 1800s, late 1800s, after the Excise Act and the kind of official legalization of a lot of whiskeys. Jaya writes, we in India produce a whiskey. Oh, fantastic. Do you guys use an E? Do you spell it with a K-E-Y or just K-Y at the end? Dave writes, Dave Morrison, Sundrum Castle is open, and Irish are at Rabbie Burns. Oh, okay, great, perfect. That's great to know. And Maria, life's a P of S, yeah. Well, always look at the bright side of life. Look at you. You're picking up on Shannon's Monty Python thread, right? Always look at the bright side of life. But that one was not Monty Python, actually that was not the same, it was not the Holy Grail, Monty Python. That was a different Monty Python, Life of Brian. In my opinion, also one of the great ones. I mean, come on, like the alien spaceship ride in Monty Python, how great was that? It's really a lovely one. Okay, Shannon sees Castle Duan is temporarily closed. No Monty Python castle. Maybe I can swing by the outside and still film it. I mean, that's as far as King Arthur got, right? Until the pigeon, that pigeon. They were pigeons, right? It's like African pigeons. Sparrows. They weren't pigeons, they were sparrows. And whether sparrows could carry coconuts, that was the discussion. So Dave Morrison writes, I've tried to make whiskey hooch. You know what I learned about whiskey and hooch and, well, moonshine. Do you know why they call it moonshine, guys? It comes from Scotland. That's why they call it moonshine. So all of you moonshine runners in Kentucky and West Virginia and all the rest of it, you have to hearken that name back to Scotland, because the Scottish whiskey distillers, before, you know, they were paying taxes on their whiskey, when they were trying to hide it from the tax man, they would distill their whiskey at night. And the reason why they do this is because when you distill whiskey, you're going to get a plume of steam, right, coming out of the stills, but you're also going to get smoke from the fires that you're using to, you know, put direct heat against that still. If you do it at night, you can't see the smoke rising against the black sky, and hence they were called moonshiners. How about that little piece of history? Oh yeah, Ross. Ross writes, Chris, we'll have to have a chat about your pronunciation. God awful, I know. I've been trying to practice to get better. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, hey? Hey, Ross, that's pretty cool. So eventually I'm gonna get there. I got a lot of way to go. I've only got, that's pretty cool, down so far. But there'll be more Scottish accent to come without hopefully embarrassing you, Ross, and myself, and Nikki, and this whole country. So we talked a lot with the Coopers about Brexit. They're another group of people who are against it and for further devolution and independence. And it's fascinating learning about Scottish history right now to see how Scotland has kind of gone back and forth, oh, swallows, not sparrows, swallows. Oh, of course it was swallows, not sparrows. I don't think I've ever seen a swallow. I need Alexa to point one out to me at one point or another. So, oh, great, Jenny Jean, Life of Brian is your favorite. Yeah, I mean, I quite like Life of Brian as well. Like, Search for the Holy Grail, like, is amazing, but Life of Brian, like, it's so good. I just love it. Oh, fantastic. Yes, Anna Maria, between you and Johan, I'm sure you guys will help me work out my French pronunciations as well. It's piss poor. My German's good, but anyway. Well, listen, I've very much over the last 30 minutes, but it's a good first introduction to welcome to Scotland, and we're going to see a lot more in the week to come. So Dave writes, I'm gonna go down to the castle the new. You guys are writing so fast. Oh yeah, I'm going to go down to the castle the new. If you say that means you're going down to the castle the now. Yeah, it's a wee blather. Wee blather. I love it. It's great. Burn. A burn, guys, is a stream. So like Barrackburn, Barrack by the stream. So there's so much rich history in Scotland, and I've really been delving deeper and deeper into it. It's also fascinating because a lot of Scottish history, kind of like from the 600s till like 1100s, there aren't a lot of good first sources, like first person sources. Not a lot of people wrote down, or if they did write down what they were seeing, what was happening, it didn't survive. So it's not that Scotland didn't have a vibrant history, then of course it did. It's just that we don't know that much about a lot of it because there's just not a lot of documentation of it. So hasty back, Chris. Oh, Nancy, hey, good to see you over on Twitch. Thank you. And Alexa, I was just talking about back because we clearly need to sit down and have a chat about my birding, because anyone that's going to mix up sparrows and swallows really doesn't have a right to be here. So that's my bad. But well, look, why don't we just walk over towards the parking lot over here, and we can just get a little bit of Scotland. We see some cooperaging over here. This looks like a covered well. I think that my brother might be smoking a cigarette somewhere. And it's good Scottish weather. Cool, kind of like 50s to 60s, not much more than that. And I don't know, I really like this. I really like this stag over here. I've seen a bunch of sheep. I've seen one hairy coo, although we're going to have a proper dedicated hairy coo video at one point. That is a very perfectly still standing, well-trained stag, because Scotland, they know how to train their stags. And that guy, you couldn't even tell that it's a real life stag because he's so still. Honestly, amazing, Scotland, amazing. How do they do it? I don't know. So you've got all these guys. That's a malt truck right there, which is very typical now. Not a lot of distilleries will, malt their own barley. They're buying that in, as well as a lot of the brewer's yeast comes in from someplace else, and they dedicate the space that they have really to creating the mash and the wort, basically a form of beer that they then distill down to make whiskey. So, and Maria says, Chris, how about we create a group on Facebook with the people who usually comment on your live streams and maybe have a video call once? Yeah, I'm all for that. I think it's a great idea, and I think that we could do a lot more towards community building, especially with our Facebook. As it turns out, I'm pretty sure that Johan is there, and Johan, who, not to shout him out, but maybe we can have a chat about that. I'm officially not in charge of our Facebook social media, so I think it's a great idea, though. But I think that a lot of the, it's hard times right now and all the rest of it. But Maria, that idea and this community will help show the company, Sandeman's New Europe, that it is worth considering that we should have more of a social media and digital outreach aspect, especially as we look towards future lockdowns. It just makes sense for us to be connecting here with the people that want to. So I love that idea, and maybe it should just be a private thing. You know what I mean? We'll just do our own thing outside of Sandeman's maybe, and we'll just do our own Facebook community for us, for the people that are doing live streams with us, and for you guys, so we can connect to each other and have space. I think that might end up being what ends up having to happen. And then once we have 50 or 100, 200 people regularly active inside there, it might well be that the Sandeman's New Europe company will be like, oh, that is a good idea. It works. So we'll do that. We'll get more involved in that. So I think that's probably the direction that it heads in. So Diana, it's really good to see you. I'm sorry that I'm going to probably be broadcasting sort of from the 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock time, although that's not, and then for West Coast, that puts you a solid 8 hours behind us. So, and Shannon, yeah, maybe that would be awesome. I think that makes a lot of sense. Let's do we're not going to wait we don't have to wait till Monday, when Nikki, Ross, and me go out for a group Skype call. You can do, Shannon, you and I should hop on and we'll get on a messenger call and talk about setting that up and just doing some more community building stuff, because it is something that it would be nice to be able to be in contact with each other and me with you guys and you guys with you guys, outside of just having to wait for a live stream for us to comment in the chat. This is great when we have this moment to do it, but just as important is for us to be able to just, as we've seen already, that we are, we're all friending each other and supporting each other already through social media. So it makes sense to make a proper community group for like live stream stuff. So yes, let's talk about it. Anywho, guys, for now, I'm going to say goodbye, but only because I want to get my butt back to Aberlour, not Aberlour, Aberlour, so I can start pacing it out, because I want to do either a live stream from there later on today still, or first thing tomorrow, before heading up towards Culloden, Battle of Culloden, where the Highlanders really met a tragic defeat. And then on to Inverness, Dalmore, Glenmorangie, and then making the flip and heading back down towards Fort William, Dalwhinnie, maybe Ben Nevis. We'll see how my brother is doing, whether he's up for the big hike. But guys, it's great. Tage, thank you. Alexa, great to see you. Guys, I missed you. I miss you guys, and we'll talk more about, you know, what an absolute bag of D's I've been, stupidity, mistakes I've made. I'm really upset with myself, but now's not the right time because I'm just trying to say hi. Colleen, mwah, good to see you, and Michelle, thanks for chiming in. Who have I missed? No one. Shannon, Diana, Tage, I love you guys. Always, Alexa, it's been too long. Ross, I'll see you in person very soon. Johan, I appreciate you and Alexa often, Alexa almost always being here. Johan, you often being here. I really appreciate you guys. And Dave, thanks for jumping in and providing some good recommendations as well. Jenny, Purple Hearts, right? And swallows, guys, not sparrows, swallows, all right? Great. Says yours, James Bond site. Oh, really? Nikki says I'm 70 kilometers from James Bond. Maybe I'm gonna have to check that out. Tibby, great guess on the Angels Tears, by the way. Job well done. Okay, all right. Well then, until later. Ciao, guys. Ciao for now from Scotland. Woo!